5 years of child abuse. A lifetime of hell on earth. Not my story, but a very close friend of mine who told me this. He was sexually abused by his stepfather ever since he was 6, and was violated around his 8th year. His biological father died of a work-related accident, and his mother married this stepfather that she knew from her hometown a few years after. That fatherly figure soon turned out to be an abusive monster that was oh so eager to put his hands on anything that moves. His mother didn't know of the abuse that he was going through because the son was threatened by death of his mother, and him if he says anything. He was in an ever worse situation after getting bullied and abused. He was completely suicidal. He was debating on just jumping in front of a semi and end it all multiple times, but his mother was the only reason he didn't want to do it, and kept pushing on through it all. He started slowly making a few friends that helped him cope a little. On his 10th he was violently molested and was left limping after his father went all out on him. He was forced to go to school the day after and was limping from the pain, unable to sit at all, unable to move. But he endured it, and shrugged it off as an accident so that no one finds out what happens. He saw what the man can do. He doesn't want his mother hurt or worse because he told on this monster. Even the bullies stopped making fun of him after seeing that he didn't care anymore about what they did to him. More uninterested in bullying an inanimate object than pity. A few older senior students who were a mix of 16 and 18-year-old caught up to what happened and pulled him aside one day to ask what happened. They all sat down and talked. Although they knew what was happening, they merely asked to confirm what's going on. My friend who told them to not spread it as it means life and death to him and especially his mother let out all the information out of pure fear from about 5 or 6 behemoths towering around him and years of abuse killing his self-esteem. The seniors were not amused, not one bit. They were all hell-bent on making this man regret his life choices, and make him regret it they did. They stalked him, cornered him and afterwards went completely berserk on him. Sodomize him with a multitude of tools, carved child rapist on his back, beat the bejesus out of his testicles to the point where he was quite literally peeing blood, and continued beating him up in the process, and afterwards just to really nail the point in. They didn't want him to die, they wanted him to live and suffer from it. He was rushed to the hospital with both his arms broken on multiple points, eye socket collapsed and eye heavily damaged with no chance of repair. Both his testicles were ruptured and are damaged beyond salvation. His anus was ripped to the size of a 22 centimeters ball, and he lost about 70% of his teeth. There was more, but it will take this whole post just to list all the damage dealt. They caught him at the brink of death from all the bleeding and managed to keep him alive somehow. The next day they told his mom of what happened, and what he did to him. She wasn't just filing for divorce, she took everything he ever owned, all the money he made, and afterwards had him put behind bars, with a little birdie that told every inmate inside of what he did. Last he heard of him was that he was being used quite literally as the prison's soap dispenser while in the pen. He didn't die, but he was left with a gape that would make even hot Kinky Joe jealous, roaming the streets, shunned by everyone, and they still regularly tell people of who he is and what he did to publicly shame him for what he did, losing him any job possible and barred from many establishments. And was regularly stoned, hissed at, and yelled at to go away like a stray dog. There was no mercy for him. 5 years of child abuse. A lifetime of hell on earth. My friend now is 26 years old, works in a decent place where he is beyond respected, his mother living with him, still single sadly, but he is now living a better life than what he had when he was a kid. He left the country where all of this happened with his mother and started working and studying and now lives a more or less easier life, working as a vice principal in the nursery I work in despite his history. Addendum, clearing up where it happened. This happened in Tunisia a long time ago. We didn't have the whole televised horrors of society, but rather it was more or less a large section in the newspapers that people end up reading or seeing. Most of our TV stations, all 2 or 3 of them back then, were heavily regulated and monitored by the government when Ben Ali was in presidency. So it always either shows random Egyptian and Tunisian soap operas, or if it's news it's mostly good news or political attacks against any opposing side that was against any opposition to Ben Ali or anyone that was under him. Newspapers on the other hand were practically free game, They post whatever they want freely as long as they don't attack or offend any governmental bodies, president, cops, unless it has to do with a dirty cop, and especially the president's wife for some reason. Internet was also a rarity. Only a few had it and used it, and it was mostly used for business and communication between family members. Did you know that in the town I was born and they just recently discovered that there's a device called the Wii U? They only thought that there was only a Wii and that's about it. Insane, right? As much as I'd love to find the newspaper with the story, I can't seem to find it anywhere online, and I doubt he'd have a copy of either. But I will ask him and see if he has it. But I will definitely see if I can find it because I personally want to see what they've written on the subject. I doubt they'll say anything necessarily bad, but they'll definitely throw some shade subliminally and call it a day. Subscribe and like the video. Thank you.